So we already kind of talked about debugging, but I will reiterate. So we opened up the Chrome Web Inspector, and it was cool, and we all love it. And someone was like, wow, I didn't know you could do that. And that's all awesome and good. But what you might not have known is that every single browser has a debugger. Even if it doesn't have a debugger, it still has a debugger. So Firefox has a debugger called Firebug. And that is something that you add. So Firefox has its own web inspector, but Firebug is definitely the debugger you want to use. And everyone knows Firebug, right? Don't need to go into that. Dragonfly. That is Opera's version of the debugger. It is awesome, and it does remote debugging. So that's there. Then Internet Explorer has F12. And I don't have Internet Explorer up here. So I will just do an interpretive dance. Now, so one thing to know about F12, when you are debugging and you have the F12 debugger open, and I will do an interpretive dance. So you're looking at the screen, let's say it's cut in half here, and here's the debugger, and you're in Elements. And there's an arrow here. And you click on that arrow, and you go into your content that is dynamically generated, and you're like, WTF, I can't click on anything. And so you hate the IE debugger, right? Everyone here hate the IE debugger? What you might not have known is if you look at where that arrow is, approximately over here, let's say, in this imaginary debugger, is a blue little refresh sign. When you click on that blue refresh, it actually refreshes the debugger to read the current DOM. So you can actually, when you're using IE as a debugger, it works almost, turn this off because I'm going to compliment Microsoft and I don't want that caught on tape. I'm just kidding. It works almost as well as the other debuggers. You can actually target the nodes in the DOM that was generated. And most people don't know that. Did you guys know that, not know that? Okay, so that is like the most, in terms of everything I've talked about in IE, that is the most important thing that you will have learned. And I'm surprised that with all the JavaScript that we've gone through that you guys never learned that, because that is so not known and so important. And then in terms of the debugger, you also know that you can change from IE9 to IE8 and IE7, that you guys know. And other than that, it's kind of a crappy debugger. But it does what it needs to do. Then, so that's Internet Explorer. Then we have Safari, which just like Chrome, has an awesome developer toolkit, which I do Option Command I. And so it updated, and I no longer have the icons, but I'm sure that's a setting. So a few things to learn about this. There's this setting right here. As you can see, I have this docked on my right, which I find, except for when I'm doing presentations, it's actually easier to dock it on the bottom. But when I'm developing, I dock it on the right, because usually I'm reading stuff in this order, not in that order. You can change where it's located down here. Or
there, yeah.
It used to be here. They've taken it down, and they've put it down in the bottom now. So I'm actually looking at this going, wow, that looks completely different than it did yesterday when I crashed my browser. So here are settings. And everything is looking really weird. Oops. And I just opened up my email, and yeah, everything's going haywire. OK. I'm just going to make it smaller. Nope. So you can make the font bigger so that when you do presentations, because that's what you guys are doing all the time. But yeah, this should have worked. And it looks different than it did yesterday. So it's always nice to get surprised. You have overrides. Here you can change the user agent. So you can actually tell it to be an iPad, to be a BlackBerry, etc. You can actually change the screen resolution. So you can basically say, hey, I think you can actually do deep DPI, or you can't. You can override the device orientation. You can emulate touch events. There's all sorts of stuff that you did not know that you could do in here. Another thing that is fairly new, so you might know because you guys have been in this course, but most people around the world don't know, is the frames, the timeline. And I will open this up during animation, but you go like this, and you press record, and you reload the page, and it tells you how long it took to load, and to repaint, and to recalculate everything. And so when you're doing performance, this is really important.